In 2016, as many as 47 Korean criminals who fled to the Philippines were finally captured and brought back to Korea by plane. However, an unexpected incident occurred when a man, a member of one of the victims' families, decided to blow himself up, resulting in many casualties. The story will focus on the year 2022, when as many as 20 criminals were captured and will be brought back to Korea. However, considering the incident in 2016, the government decided to use a container ship as a means of transportation to prevent civilians or other families from committing suicide bombings, as had happened before. These criminals are not ordinary criminals. They are top-ranked criminals in Interpol, which means they have all committed very serious criminal acts. Thus, experienced police officers were assigned to escort this journey until it arrived in Korea. Among the many detainees, there is a criminal named Park Jong-do, who is a perpetrator of rape and murder of more than 30 women. Jong-do, who has tattoos all over his body, mocks the police captain, so he is beaten up right in front of everyone to show that you should not mess with the police officers. Switching to Korea, specifically the command center overseeing this journey, there is a commander who will be the leader in the mission to transfer these high-level criminals. In the minutes before departure, the detainees are placed in a room containing 2 detainees, where the captain's subordinates will be placed in front of each room to guard and monitor the criminals. In addition to Jong-do, there is also a criminal named Lee, who, among the many criminals on the ship, is the only one who is calm, silent, and has not said a word. In addition to male criminals, there is also a female criminal named Myung-ju, who is known to have killed her partner and future in-laws in a very cruel way. We will be introduced to a doctor along with his assistant, who was deliberately assigned to join the ship. This doctor behaves quite suspiciously, especially since some of the medical equipment he carries is very unusual and not common for an ordinary doctor to carry. In addition, there is also a team of cooks who are specially tasked with cooking food for the detainees. After the ship departs, the cooks begin to provide food to each detainee, including the guards on duty. The doctor quietly goes to the engine room with the ship's map he has brought. We will all be very surprised to find out that not only high-ranking criminals are brought on this ship, but there is also a detainee named Alpha, who is sleeping and placed in an iron cage box. This doctor apparently received a secret task to inject anesthetic every 6 hours to keep the detainee Alpha asleep. Up to this point, it is clear that there is a secret purpose unknown to the captain, including the crew, especially when the commander secretly opens a highly confidential secret document. It is clear that there is a secret being hidden by the commander from all his subordinates. As midnight approached, the guards began to tire and became negligent in their watch over the prisoners. This was exploited by Jung-do, who extracted a small wire previously implanted under his tongue. Simultaneously, it was revealed that the cooks were not genuine, but rather accomplices of Jung-do, also ruthless criminals. They had previously killed the real cooks and disguised themselves as them to board the ship. When they began to act, the fake cooks were caught carrying weapons by 2 officers, whom they brutally and inhumanely killed. After placing the bodies in the cooling room, they entered the captain's room and slaughtered the entire ship's crew, then destroyed all communication equipment, including satellites, to prevent headquarters from learning of the events. Jung-do lured an officer inside, where he attacked by biting off his ear. At the same time, some of the fake cooks massacred all the guards in the area, allowing Jung-do to freely kill one of the officers. More crazily, he enjoyed the moment by slowly stabbing the heart and then urinating on the body. The captain was with his other subordinates, including a beautiful female officer named Da-yeon, who had heard noises in the captain's room. When they went to check, a shootout occurred between the captain and the fake head chef, where Da-yeon bravely took up arms and engaged in the dangerous moment. After killing the fake head chef, Da-yeon tried to ask one of the surviving crew members if there was another way to contact headquarters. The crew member mentioned that there was a satellite phone in the engine room, the only way they could contact headquarters. Lee, who disagreed with the action, advised Jung-do to reconsider, as Lee seemed to sense that the plan was too rash and could endanger them all. The doctor panicked upon hearing gunshots, deciding to lock the door and confine himself with his assistant to avoid the chaos. Meanwhile, Jung-do went to the engine room, a guard was tasked with collecting all the bodies in the cooling room. Unexpectedly, blood from all the victims flowed through a leaking drainage pipe, dripping directly onto the face of the prisoner Alpha. The captain and his subordinates had just reached the detention room that was filled with the blood of his men, where Jung-do and his team had already reached the engine room to destroy the satellite phone and kill all the crew there. The captain and his remaining subordinates then appeared, intending to capture them all. In reality, the captain could have simply shot the criminals to end it, without the need for a complicated fight. However, it seemed too easy for them all, so both sides decided to fight barehanded. While everyone was busy fighting and one criminal chose to flee, Alpha appeared, silencing everyone. Although his eyes were sewn shut, Alpha could see everyone with an infrared spectrum or body heat. He possessed speed and strength beyond that of a normal human, killing most of the criminals with a single bare-handed strike. Criminals like Jung-do chose to flee, shooting everyone indiscriminately. Alpha, with his superhuman agility, brutally killed 2 men. Jung-do, having no other choice, is forced to confront Alpha, but is easily killed by Alpha in a sadistic manner. Remaining were the captain, Da-yeon, Lee, and an elderly male prisoner. They were approached by Alpha, whom Lee managed to fend off while also noticing and recognizing a number on his chest. It seemed that Lee knew something that no one else did. The 4 of them finally survived after successfully closing the automatic steel door. Meanwhile, the commander used satellite imagery to understand what had actually happened and was infuriated when he realized that the criminals had caused chaos on the ship. Soon after, a phone call came from someone seemingly very important named Director Pio. It's unclear who Director Pio is, but he has the same numbered tag on his chest as Alpha. The commander was ordered to immediately go to the ship and resolve the chaos as quickly as possible. On the ship, there were 2 crew members who were still alive and decided to escape using a lifeboat. But Alpha appeared and killed them all. The doctor's assistant was still masking up, unaware of the chaos outside, and finally met her end. Suddenly, while escaping, the doctor accidentally encountered the captain and his friends. Out of fear, the doctor honestly admitted that his journey was actually to bring the prisoner Alpha to Korea, where the doctor was only paid to inject anesthetic every 6 hours to keep Alpha asleep. Da-yeon was asked to take the 4 of them to a safe place, while he would go to another room to look for any surviving subordinates. Despite being warned not to separate, the captain was stubborn and confident. In another room, we see other criminals just meeting Myung-ju and her assistant, while a female officer is already bound. Unbeknownst to them all, a monstrous figure was about to approach them. Only one man and Myung-ju, who managed to escape using the elevator, were left. They finally breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that Alpha could not chase them. Fortunately for Myung-ju, she was saved by the captain. However, the man was unlucky to make it out of the fallen elevator due to the damaged cables from the shooting, with Alpha and the man still inside. Thinking Alpha wouldn't survive, they were astonished to see Alpha standing upright as if nothing had happened. So they went to the kitchen to secure Myung-ju in the cooling room. The captain, an ordinary human, had to duel with a monster with extraordinary strength. Even though he managed to sever Alpha's right arm, he still had no chance of survival and had to die like all his subordinates. It was Myung-ju's turn to be targeted, and she thought hard about how to survive by blending in with the corpses there and pretending to be dead without moving at all. Unexpectedly, this method worked to deceive Alpha. Lee and 3 others managed to reach the basement where Alpha was caged, where Da-yeon found a file containing the origins of prisoner Alpha, who turned out to be a prisoner from 1943. Alpha was sent to the Philippines during the Japanese occupation, where he and his colleagues were captured by the Japanese and made subjects of an experiment in a project to create human weapons. On the laptop found, Alpha was known to be 5 times stronger than an ordinary human, with wolf genetic characteristics, sensitive to sound and the smell of blood, and cell aging did not apply to his body, meaning Alpha is an immortal being. We are taken back to 1943 when the experiment had just been completed, where the sound of applause celebrating this success triggered Alpha to rise and massacre everyone present. Back to the present, the commander and his troops have just arrived at the ship's location. The troops he brought were not ordinary soldiers, but special forces members of a secret organization where they all injected some sort of super soldier serum to enhance their physicality, speed, and strength. Upon arriving on the ship, the commander was greeted by Myung-ju asking for help, followed by the appearance of Daeyeon, the doctor, and the elder. The commander immediately killed Myung-ju and Daeyeon because their purpose here was not to evacuate them, but to kill Alpha, who had already been released and was out of control. Not only that, but we are also surprised by the character Lee, who turns out to have a similar mark as Alpha. Lee is one of the experimental subjects who deliberately joined the group of criminals to find the commander and the secret organization that made him this way. It is known that Lee and several of his friends were victims of kidnapping to be made into experimental subjects. From all the subjects, not a single one survived the serum. Until when all the bodies were about to be thrown away and made into pig food, Lee unexpectedly opened his eyes, a sign that his body accepted the serum. From there, Lee decided to live a normal life by getting married and having a small family, until his wife and baby were killed, which made Lee decide to take revenge on the commander and the secret organization. Soon Alpha appeared, diverting everyone's attention, where all the troops immediately shot him, making a brutal fight inevitable. The relaxed expression shown by the commander was not without reason, as he is a user of the super soldier serum, where his physical strength has been doubled compared to ordinary experimental subjects, including Alpha, making him able to defeat Alpha quite easily. The doctor and the elder themselves got into the commander's helicopter. Instead of escaping from here, the two of them had to die along with the standby pilot in the helicopter. Remaining were Lee and the commander on this ship, both of whom fought on the same basis, both serum users. However, because the commander's serum had been enhanced, Lee was overwhelmed by the attacks given by him. With the motivation for revenge, the commander was finally severely injured by Lee, who kicked the commander out of the ship and followed him into the sea to finish him off. Moving to another place, specifically a secret base where the experimental subjects were imprisoned, where we will be revealed the actual fact about the figure of Director Pio, who turns out to be Alpha's friend, a fellow soldier in 1943. Somehow he managed to be successful as he is now, but clearly Director Pio has a much stronger physique than all the existing characters. This is proven when he easily breaks the arm of one of the subjects. Of all the subjects, Director Pio is interested in meeting one subject who is still young, where this subject turns out to be Lee's biological child, who is going to be killed by the commander because this child inherits his father's genes, a serum user, and the only subject formed naturally without serum injection. So it is clear that this child has the potential to become the strongest of all, including Director Pio himself. Lee himself managed to survive to the Korean mainland, and Lee still does not know if his biological child is still alive, and the movie ends. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, because by subscribing you have supported me to make better videos. See you in the next video.